Right now, Davey D hanging out with you this afternoon, and we wanted to get on the phone line with us hip hop historian, activist out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a member of the legendary crew X Clan. His name is Paradise Gray. We wanted to talk to Paradise today because we just got word of the passing of Sylvia Robinson. Some of y'all may go, who is Sylvia Robinson? And for those who don't know, you should remember the song Rapper's Delight, because she is the person that was the owner of Sugar Hill Records. She's the one that put the group together. She's the one that laid out that landmark song that went on to make history. Paradise, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Davey D. Glad to be here. Unfortunate about the situation, but always good to hear your voice, my brother.
Talk to us about Sylvia Robinson. Why is she so important?
Wow, Sylvia Robinson is so important because she was one of the few elders in the music industry who heard hip hop and actually wanted to work with it and wasn't biased against it and understood that it was something that was important and new and something that should be supported.
Let me ask you this. What was it like back in the early days, the 70s, early 80s, that we had so many elders that did shun away from hip hop? What made her unique in that she stepped forward and helped folks? What was it about her?
I think that one thing was that she was from New Jersey, and she was, close enough to New York to go to New York and see hip hop in its original element before it was on vinyl. And she went to Harlem World, and she actually got to see hip hop in its rawest, most exciting stage when, people did rap music because they loved to rap, and it was creative and energetic and young.
But it was also an embarrassment for elders at that time.
Well, I think that, some of them misunderstood it. I got into many debates with some world famous R&B artists about hip hop not being real music and it just being a fad and it wouldn't last and, all of these different things that they said about it. But there was a lot of elders who had that vision, like a lot of the original DJs, even some of the disco DJs, like Pete DJ Jones, who heard the music and understood the potential of it and wasn't biased because they were rapping versus singing and sampling versus playing instruments.
Did it help the fact that Sylvia Robinson herself was a musician? Before, being a record label owner? Do you think that gave her a different type of perspective in being open?
Well, I don't know, because a lot of the greatest critics were also singers and musicians also. We got a lot of flack, if I'm going to call names, from people like Larry Blackman from Cameo. He really was a harsh critic of hip hop, and he was very similar to Sylvia. I think one of the things about Sylvia that made her unique was that she understood publishing and catalog owning, because she used to own the catalog of Chess Records. So that was one of the things that made her a whole lot of money, was when she sold the Chess Records catalog to MCA in like 1984. So she had she's one of like hip hop's first moguls, and she really honestly kind of like set the page for Russell Simmons and P. Diddy and Jay-Z by the way she was a harsh business person, so she understood the inner workings of the business better than most artists.
Now, some people listening to this, and including myself, would say that Sylvia Robinson ushered in the age of rap records. And with that came a few things. Some of it we can attribute to her as a business person. For example, prior to the age of records, prior to Rapper's Delight being put out, we had a situation where it was the DJ that was the main attraction for hip hop in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, you were part of a crew, and people knew the DJ more than the MCs.
Right.
Once they signed to a record label, the rapper was moved to the forefront. In Sylvia Robinson's case, she actually didn't even use the DJ. When you look at groups like Grandmaster Flash, who everybody knew Flash before his MCs, and she had a house band. I mean, it was good in history to note that the house band included some legendary funk artists, but she kind of removed the DJ from the equation, and that put rap and hip hop down a path that it never fully really returned. What do you think about that?
Well, but she also, one of the things that she did, including the Sugar Hill Gang, they replayed Good Times from Chic, so basically she did make rap music, and she did bring that musicianship to hip hop that I think it did lack, which I think it opened the way for a group like The Roots, who do have a DJ who was prominently featured as well as a full band. I think that even, groups like Stetsasonic featured a live band and a DJ at the same time. One thing it did do, like a lot of times the DJs were like dictators too. Sometimes it's good that some of them weren't exactly in control of everything anymore, but I do think that the DJ is an important element of hip hop, and it was the foundation. But there were groups that came out later, a lot later than the Sugar Hill Gang, like Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and Run DMC and Jam Master Jay, that did use live music and still prominently figured out how to feature the DJ in his correct light.
That's the voice of Paradise Gray from the group X-Clan, talking about the passing of Sylvia Robinson. Some people dub her the mother of hip-hop. She was the owner of Sugar Hill Records, which gave rise to Sugar Hill Gang and many of the early groups. Let me go back to 1979 when Sugar Hill Gang came out. If you recall, there was a lot of criticism, and this is what I meant when we said that once the business got into this culture, things changed. Sugar Hill Gang, for people outside of New York, was a landmark record. People enjoyed it, etc., etc. But for people inside New York, there was harsh criticism because they literally jumped to the front of the line. Nobody ever heard of the group. We later came to find out that they were put together. They even took other people's rhymes and used it in the song and immortalized it. And so what you had was a very artificial insertion into the culture, and it changed the way things were done. I mean, all the way from the way that people were rapping. They had dialed it back a few years and was doing elementary radio type rap. Hey, everybody, I'm into party.
Right.
When everybody had really stepped up and was on to very complex routines. Talk about that. Does she deserve that criticism for that?
I always say that there's two industries. There's hip hop, the culture, and then there's rap music, the business. And she made some shrewd business moves that were, in hindsight, very intelligent. But it definitely created a big rift in the culture. Because we knew that Big Bank Hank wasn't a rapper, and he was and he was stealing Grandmaster Caz from the Cold Crutches lyrics. We knew that at the time. And we were really angry at the record. At the same time, we loved it because it was the first record that we were seeing like the Sugar Hill Gang on Soul Train, and we was like hearing rap music on the radio. It was big for us, but it was like bittersweet moment for us. But we were really happy when artists like Kool Moe Dee and the Treacherous Three and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five quickly got deals also and started making music. So, like I said, it was a bittersweet moment, but I guess it happened in the way that it had to happen because, had it not been, the Sugar Hill Gang with that incredible record that broke, new ground on the radio and in pop music, we may have never gotten our foot in the door. We were doing it so long in the streets without that recognition. And at the time Sugar Hill Gang came out, it was a lot better than the alternatives that was hitting wax like King Tim III That was like totally like a throwback to like the 60s rapping.
One of the things that has also been underscored in her career, Sylvia Robinson, is she was a black woman. Her and her husband, Joey, had a long history in the music industry. You guys as X-Clan learned firsthand just how wicked this business can be. You can write a whole book about how X-Clan was, how the owners of your record label refused to promote your albums, were taking record sales and putting it to other groups because he disagreed with with the group's political outlook on life. And basically, you all are part of hundreds of black groups that have been ripped off literally by the label. With that being said, one would think that a black-owned label like Sugar Hill would have changed direction. And, when looking at some of the books and criticisms, even from some of the groups that got on, it didn't really change that much. And should we had expected her to move in a different in a different way, not play the same games that the white corporate major labels were playing, but be much more different?
Well, I kind of disregard that criticism of her and keep it as a criticism of the music industry. And those practices are very much still in effect to this day. There isn't a so-called hip-hop mogul out there who is not ripping artists off left and right and being totally accepted as this great person while they're crushing the hearts and the minds and the careers of young people left and right. And that goes for, from Def Jam to rock, to the rock, to Bad Boy. Those practices are still in effect to this day. And in a time where we should know better as black people or how we should treat each other as human beings, we're still doing the same dirty things. And it's not just hip hop. The very same thing happened to TLC, where a knowledgeable, older black artist had them under this contract and they squeezed all the money out of those girls, So basically, I think it's a major problem, not just in music business, but in America, that we have lost our way and we lost who we traditionally have been. And we're nothing but a bunch of chocolate dipped white people right now.
One of the things about Sugar Hill, as early on, it started to become a template. People said it was going to be the hip hop Motown. You ran one of the biggest nightclubs that gave birth to a lot of groups who got their first starts coming through the legendary Latin Quarter. Can you talk about the artists that came off of Sugar Hill, what they meant? Were they polished? Were they, in a sense, kind of the equivalent to that, to the Motown, in the sense that it was putting out a lot of groups? And when we think about it, everybody from what's her name that was in Sequence? I'm forgetting her name. Angie Stone, on down to the Crash Crew, and there's a lot of legends that came off of Sugar Hill.
I think that Sugar Hill really, they were definitely innovators, and they had a great crew of to start their label out. But I think that as hip hop matured and the changing of the guard from the pioneer era to the golden era happened, that they sat on a pedestal rather than keeping their ear and their nose to the grindstone. Like, we never saw the people from Sugar Hill at the Latin Quarters as the era of Grandmaster Melly Mel transitioned into the era of Rakim, KRS-One, and Big Daddy Kane. It's like they were on this, like you had Lovebug Starsky and Busy Bee and Grandmaster Melly Mel and Curtis Blow as like the reigning superstars of hip hop. But as that era started to change, the new young labels like Profile Records and Tommy Boy and Def Jam, they were way more aggressive at recruiting younger and new sounds.
Lastly, you mentioned Rakim. And changing pace a little, I know we've been, giving a little homage to Sylvia Robinson and her passing. But Eric B. and Rakim just got nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What does that mean? I mean, especially knowing their backgrounds, where they came from, and how they changed the game so significantly in the early '80s when they first became known.
I'm really happy about Eric B. and Rakim being nominated. They were very hard working and humble. They were, guys who would always come to the club even after they got popular. They would always treat people with respect, always put on a decent show, never try to act like they was all that, and extremely talented. And, Rakim's lyricism changed the game for the better. So big props to Eric B. and Rakim. Congratulations. Latin Quarter crew, take over the world, baby.
And as we close out with Paradise Gray, let me just ask you, this year we saw the two pillars of hip-hop, or at least the rap industry, pass away. Pioneering figures, Bobby Robinson
Yes.
of Enjoy Records,
Yes.
which came out about the same time as Sugar Hill, and it was more New York based, but very
Yes.
popular. And of course, we're losing Sylvia. With those two legends gone, and their history, what does that mean? What do you want to say about that?
I just want to say that, they never miss you until you're gone. You know what I'm saying? Everybody professes their love for you and how much they cared about you after, the RIP starts showing up on Twitter and Facebook. But we have a lot of wonderful, incredible legends who are still alive today that we're blessed to be in the presence of. People such as Africa Bambaataa, people such as Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, people such as Pete DJ Jones. There are a lot of our wonderful, incredible, legendary pioneers who are still alive, and I salute all of you. And I thank you for giving me hip hop and saving my life from the South Bronx. I'm not going to wait until you're dead to give you props and say thank you to you. And we should all respect our elders from our genre and be mindful that their sacrifices created a lane for us to survive and to thrive in this industry. And on that note, I like to also say, a rest in peace to Troy Davis, and just wonder how one life can make such a difference. And if one life can make such a difference, and while we're on the note of pioneers, let's give respect due to Ernie Panacioli, one of hip hop's greatest photographers. And if you could give $5 to save his life, would you?
That's true. Ernie, of course, along with a number of other pioneers, he's afflicted with cancer right now and had sent out a hospital bill. He's an elder. He's somebody who served in the war. He's somebody who's been around. His bill was, $42,000 for a day-long visit. We did have a fundraiser for him out here, and anybody talking about health care and the health care reform has been around saving lives. We got some elders that we can show you that ain't getting no health care and are literally having to get money from people off the streets to save their lives, which is a damn shame, and don't believe that hype. But that's a point well taken.
Yes. Brother, also, please mention that, Sylvia's song Pillow Talk. And also before I forget, Brother Davey, in reference to Sylvia as a artist and producer and writer, she's also the credited producer of Love on a Two-Way Street by The Moments, one of the most incredible slow jams of all time. And her slow jam, Pillow Talk, which is one of my favorites, when she originally wrote it, she wrote it for Al Green, but he turned it down because he thought it was a little too sexy and against his religion. But I'm glad she spit it herself because she did an incredible job with it. Love you, Sylvia. Rest in peace. May the Creator find pleasure with you at his side.
Paradise Gray, we appreciate it. You sharing with us the legacy of Sylvia Robinson and just some of the thoughts that are connected with that. We're going to take a break here on Hard Knock Radio. We're out for now. Peace. All right, Dice, much appreciated.
Glad to be here. Unfortunate about the situation, but always good to hear your voice, my brother.
Talk to us about Sylvia Robinson. Why is she so important?
Wow, Sylvia Robinson is so important because she was one of the few elders in the music industry who heard hip hop and actually wanted to work with it.
Right now, Davey D hanging out with you this afternoon, and we wanted to get on the phone line with us hip hop historian, activist out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a member of the legendary crew X Clan. His name is Paradise Gray. We wanted to talk to Paradise today because we just got word of the passing of Sylvia Robinson.
And wasn't biased against it and understood that it was something that was important and new and something that should be supported.
Let me ask you this, what was it like back in the early days, the 70s, early 80s, that we had so many elders that did shun away from hip hop? What made her unique in that she stepped in? Some of y'all may go, who is Sylvia Robinson? And for those who don't know, you should remember the song Rapper's Delight, because she is the person that was the owner of Sugar Hill Records. She's the one that put the group together. She's the one that laid out that landmark song that went on to make history. Paradise, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Davey D.
Forward and help folks. What was it about her?
I think that one thing was that she was from New Jersey, and she was, close enough to New York to go to New York and see hip hop in its original element before it was on vinyl. And she went to Harlem World, and she actually got